Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to SkyWatch TV. I am brimming with excitement. We have an explosive announcement. I believe the announcement of the year. It's going to blow you away, but before we make it, let me introduce who's here to help me celebrate. She's the Director of Operations and the head of SkyWatch TV's Human Resources Department, Cherise Parton. He's the head of our Project Development and Maintenance team, Dustin Wubker. She's the head of the Whispering Ponies Ranch Animal Encounter Experience, Kate Horn. She's the visionary and founder of Whispering Ponies Ranch, Nita Horn. And she is the host of the popular Christian television program, The Simply His Coffee Shop, and my beautiful wife, Catherine Horn. Are you ready for the big reveal?
Yes.
Are you ready for the sweet, sweet words that I have waited for months and months to be able to share with our Skywatch audience? Whispering Ponies Ranch has insurance and we are having camp. Let's do it. Come on now. That's right. That's right. I have never left this seat during a broadcast, but this is too big. This is too big. Ladies and gentlemen, we are so pleased to be able to bring you up to speed on today's announcement. For those that missed some of the difficulty last year, Cherise, members of my family and the Whispering Ponies Ranch team were also joined by so many supporters today.
Yes.
People that have poured out their finances, their prayers, their belief in this ministry. And we were rocked last year. My father passed away in October of 2023, and we rolled right into what was the most difficult year of our survival ever. And to top things off, without enough time to do anything about it other than pray and pivot and work ourselves to death trying to make something happen for the kids at Whispering Ponies Ranch last year without enough time right before our camping season.
Yep.
Everybody's telling we're tired. Camp's coming. It's going to be a time of God-ordained intervention with the little kids that we serve there. And we're going to talk in just a minute, for those that are still not following this announcement, what Whispering Ponies Ranch is and the children that we serve there. We were looking forward to camp. It's coming. And then our insurance of over a decade, with no claims, mind you, we end up a part of a mass dump of ministries and organizations that serve children that lost insurance with no time at all to pivot. And of course, the leadership of Royal Family Kids Camp, many of the organizations that we serve. Cherise, now we're on the phones.
Oh, gosh.
We are spiraling 24/7 process now of trying to find alternative locations for these children to come and be ministered to. And I will say that with the exception of one camp, and this is praise be to God that this could have happened, because otherwise, without a Savior, this is impossible. Right before June, when camps from coast to coast are absolutely booked.
Yeah.
You're not getting into a camp.
No,
making
there's
phone
no
calls
way.
in May. Are you kidding me?
Nope.
With the exception of one of the camps that we usually serve at Whispering Ponies Ranch, all of our camps found last-minute pivot tos and some sympathetic fellow ministries that took them in as refugees.
Yeah.
Yes.
And they had camp regardless of the fact that the enemy tried to dismantle this amazing program. For those of you that are still struggling to follow what this announcement means and what it entails for these children that I keep describing, Whispering Ponies Ranch is Skywatch Television's charitable ministry. We serve kids that have been pulled out of sex trafficking. We serve children that are wards of the state. These kids have been abused in ways we can't even talk about on a platform like this without being demonetized, deplatformed, deleted, shadow banned. And at Whispering Ponies Ranch, at no cost to the ministries that we serve, that's Royal Family Kids, forthechildren.org, Teen Reach, and we've got some new ones percolating this year as a result of being open again. We serve these children. Those kids come to our facilities where they get to experience the theater of the outdoors. They get their Jesus Christ encounter. They get to play in the pool. They get to climb rock walls and be challenged. They learn social construct and rehabilitation. We have animals that serve them very therapeutically, and they're navigating how to speak to adults again and open those lines of communication. It is what Wayne Tesh calls an oasis.
Yeah.
And he is the founder of Royal Family Kids. And if you follow this ministry for years and years, you know that this is the heartbeat of what we do. So having to pivot so hard last year, it was devastating on a lot of levels. Very quickly, before I open this up to the rest of the panel today, who are going to share some of their memories from last year, and we're going to talk about why it was so difficult to get coverage here in just a minute, I want to add that God did some things that were amazing last year in addition to these last-minute pivot twos, sympathetic campgrounds, taking in our refugees. We as a family and some dear members of our staff like Dustin and his wife Ashley, we had the opportunity to do something we've never done before.
Yep.
You see, at Whispering Ponies Ranch historically, and like we're going to do again this year now, we're on the side of food service. We're running the amenities.
We're the facilitators.
We're the facilitators, right. You know, like Ashley Whoopker, she's cleaning the toilets. We're sweeping floors. We're putting the food out. We're taking care of the buildings. Dustin's fixing things that break. And while all of that facilitates a lot of this wonderful ministry, and while we have interactions at the rock wall and amenities like the zip line where we're able to play a part, to partner with these other counselors and ministers in part of that journey, we ourselves are not in the cabins. We're not with the kids 24/7. We're not in their chapel services. We're not there at breakfast and then after dinner. And so one of the biggest challenges from last year also ended up being one of the biggest opportunities and the blessings. Our family and several of our staff ended up serving as counselors. That meant that we went to other campgrounds for days and some of us weeks on end. My oldest daughters, Kate and Juanita, serving for weeks on end as counselors, support staff. And we got to be more connected with the kids than ever before. And we have so many stories. We'll never get through them all today, but God really showed up and he intervened for these kids. And he taught our staff some new layers of the actual emotional cost of what it is to run these camps. I said very early last year, I knew that this would be rough, but I had no idea, even though I know a lot of stuff about how rough this can be. Very sobering, very difficult. Cherise, we've had so many people asking us all year, you know, when we would have insurance. We've been being called, you know, January, February, and I kept saying, if we don't get a policy soon, we're going to end up with a repeat of last year. You know, they want to know, are they going to be able to come to Whispering Ponies Ranch? Are they going to have to seek other campground facilities? Help me walk the viewers through why it was so unprecedentedly hard. I'm talking nearly impossible to get a new policy in place before this season begins in the current insurance climate.
Sure. You know, over the last 24 months, the national insurance marketplace experienced some of the most turbulent outcomes in that time, both the United States and internationally. And because of factors such as severe storms, widespread, you know, damages, fires. This isn't on the national level, right? Insurance industry started labeling camps as high risk. Camps typically are rural, so you have less response times from if you've got an injury or you've got a fire or you've got, you know, a storm, whatever, you know, things like that. So they labeled it as high risk. You've got outdoor activities happening, you've got youth that are there, and you've got overnight situations happening. So they're looking at that as, I probably don't want to insure that. And nationally, honestly, you know, faith-based camps and not-for-profits, they rely on a really small group of insurers. And when those insurers pulled out, organizations like ours were left without any safety net whatsoever. So we were not the only individual in this boat. And I'm thankful to the Lord that we were able to get done what we were able to get done last year and how we got our refugees and retained our camps. A lot of them did not, and a lot of those children missed out on their summer, and maybe will this summer too, dependent on their location, you know, nationally. But thankfully, after 11 months, going through 19 different brokers, I can remember vividly, I was on the phone with you, and this was probably in October, November, and I am absolutely at my wit's end. You've walked the floor, you've cried out, all the things. And an epiphany, and I went, I know people. I know people. Make a phone call to people that do this, and not that I hadn't had that thought before, But some of that connection didn't really work out for two parts. It did for the property side. Before we had an all-encompassing policy.
Right.
And what we had to do is procure insurance on the property, which left us exposed for general liability.
Which meant visitors.
Oh,
guests.
anybody.
We've got insurance over the assets, but I still can't have a visitor.
No, exactly. That coverage protects you from legal claims and accidents and things. And so I made some connections, made some phone calls, and by the grace of God,
Right.
he put me in contact with a wonderful agent. I'm so thankful that we've got him in our pocket because like I said, there's very few insurers out there that cover organizations like ours. We finally got insurance, and the thing is the Lord, I feel like, it was a divine setup, right?
Yeah.
Because these two individuals, they speak at a national level, two underwriters face to face at a national conference once
Yeah.
a year. And that conference happened in February this year.
Yep.
So they were able to sit across the table from them, look them eye to eye, and litigate who we are, what we do, because we're a unicorn.
Yeah.
What do you mean you don't charge? Are you kidding me?
That's right. It's a
Everybody's
strange
for
model.
profit.
That's
What's
right.
wrong?
Yeah.
And a lot of them don't get the concept of that being ministry. They were able to sit in front of them,
And they
eyeball to
fought
eyeball.
hard for
They
us.
fought so. I can't tell you how many times that while they were there, I think it was in Minnesota, I'm getting rapid fire emails. They're asking this now. They're asking this now. So literally, check my time card, payroll. I'm punching in 24/7, 7 days a week, answering. And the minute the underwriters have a question, I'm answering it. Because,
Yep.
Nope,
No,
here it
she
is.
was on
Here
it.
it is.
Yes.
Just rapid fire. And praise the Lord, we've got insurance. And we're ready for camp.
Nita, last year was one of our most difficult years as a ministry for lots and lots of reasons. But in spite, like I mentioned moments ago, God really showed up and did some truly beautiful things. Was there something in particular that stood out to you?
Of the many years we've done this, even in our former life years ago, we've always only facilitated. This was our first opportunity to be a part of the actual group themselves.
Right.
To me, it was amazing to get to see that, and they gave me an opportunity to be the grandma of the camp,
Yeah.
which was memorable. And I mean, after all of these years, it was just a highlight for me. Briefly, also being able to interact with the tea parties and the birthday prep. Those are things that we distance ourselves because that's what they do.
Right.
But that's what we got to do this time, and those were fun moments, and like you said, very eye-opening, and so those were my highlights.
Yeah, there was a lot of kids walking around. Where's Grandma Blam?
Yeah.
That's her nickname, Grandma Blam. That's what she wears right here on the shirt. Dustin, you're overseeing right now a series of improvements to Whispering Ponies Ranch. We're building new pavilions, brand new archery, areas of shade. Because, Sharice, historically, you're talking about liability. You've got children and counselors and our staff. We're out in the sun, and sometimes it's 99 plus degrees.
Full
and
sun.
Yes, and
No
people are
shade.
they're struggling with dehydration. We're doing some stuff this year.
Yeah.
And it's amazing because you're talking 6 weeks ago, we don't even know if we're having camp.
No.
And now suddenly we've approved a series of things that will be wonderful for these groups. I've already sent several of the leadership pictures. They're like, oh my goodness, I
Yay.
can't wait.
Yay.
You and your wife, Ashley, stepped up last year, and you guys went directly into battle for these abused children. When there was a call and these groups were saying, we need counselors, there were two of you, in addition to our staff, that went. Was there a moment from last year, you as a counselor or as a support staff, that you'd like to share with us?
Well, when I first got the call from you, Joe, you said they have this opportunity. Do you want to go do it? And before I could even think about it, my mouth said yes.
You did say yes very quick.
As soon as I got off the phone, my wife said, "What'd you sign us up for?"
Right.
And I said, "I don't quite know exactly what I had been told I was going to do was play a cat, dress up as a cat, and play in their play that
Oh,
they
I
do."
remember that, yeah.
And so
they had a little
they ended up
theatrical
switching me at the
play.
last moment to be a camp counselor, which was one of
Okay.
the most amazing times I've ever had in my life. We did lots of different things. We did bows and arrows. We had the archery thing. We had a barbarian lunch.
I remember the barbarian lunch.
That was incredible. Whole rotisserie chickens cut in half on the table, and we're doing watermelon eating contests. And it was amazing to see the transformation of the kids throughout the week and to see God move throughout everybody's hearts, even the staff and everybody,
Yeah.
even the camp people that were just facilitating us,
Right.
were still in it and had God supporting them, and
Yeah,
it was amazing
yeah.
to see.
You have to understand that these little kids, most of these little boys, a lot of them have been malnourished. They've
Yes.
never seen a spread of rotisserie chicken and fresh watermelon and
Right.
finger foods and
Right.
eat until your heart's content. They've never even experienced that. So
Right.
for us, it was like a novel event. For these children, this was like an experience they'll never forget.
Ever.
Right.
Kate, you also stepped up last year, and I'm so proud. You and Juanita, both of my oldest two daughters. Nita was barely old enough. She was able to squeeze in as a junior counselor. But you guys did several weeks of what Will Johnson has said. Most of the adults can only endure about a week of this. And they take 6 months after the summer season is over to recommit for the next year. That's the emotional toll of dealing with some of these special needs and difficult children without reprieve, day and night, day and night, day and night. You're in the facilities where these children are sleeping. You're with other adults, but you're there to make sure that they're safe. And some of the kids have night terrors.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
you're being told early on, little Billy can't last through the night. He's going to wander. Some of them sleepwalk. Some of them
Yeah.
have, issues with claustrophobia. It's a really, really difficult situation. And you and Juanita did weeks, plural, of it. Was there a moment that stood out to you?
There was way too many to be able to even
Pick one.
Yeah, you can't pick one. I went to about 3 or 4 different camps, but I was a counselor full time twice, and each camp I had 4 girls, and it was just a completely different perspective than what I'm used to, because I'm usually able to hide behind a horse or a goat and be in my comfort zone with
Right.
the animals or doing things like the rock wall and the zip line at recreation. But last year it was just so awesome to be able to be a counselor, and it definitely pushed me out of my comfort zone as well. Because again, I'm usually used to being with the animals, and I'm over there like not super being a girly girl, but the girls are dressing me up in dresses at the tea parties, and I'm doing birthday parties, and
Yeah.
You
it
learned
was
to
just-
braid hair for some of
I
the
did.
girls.
I actually did very well with the braiding of the hair, and then I kind of became known as the girl that could braid everyone's hair. But it was just a very awesome experience and very different than I'm used to. But I think that it was completely awesome.
Now, Catherine, you normally do the food service at Whispering Ponies Ranch, and since
Yeah.
we weren't having camp there, this was being handled last year by a bunch of other individuals. So you actually also got the opportunity to go serve,
Yeah.
on the grounds. Was there a moment that you remember that was special for you?
So there wasn't as many opportunities for me because I was more a support staff. So, this one needs to go to the bathroom. Can you walk that? Can you go for the 2 deep rule? Because there's always 2 people for 1 child. So if one
Right.
kid has to go to the bathroom, 2 people have to take them. It's for the safety of the child, safety for you
Right.
as the
Right.
facilitator. So it's just coverage, right? So I don't have as many stories about the interactions with the kids, but the biggest thing for me was watching my girls get this opportunity to serve in a completely different way and watch their growth. So for me as a mom, that was huge to watch their passion for these kids and for this ministry. That was just, I'll never forget that part of it for sure. And then just really quick, some of the kids too, because some of these kids are returning, so they were talking to us. We really wish that we were at your camp. We missed the food. We
Yes.
missed the
Yeah.
animals. We missed this. We missed that. And so
Yeah.
they were really sad too that they weren't going to be able to be at Whispering Ponies Ranch. So that was a really cool thing though to hear too from the kids that were returning that they missed our facility. But we were so thankful for the facilities that did take them in because
That's
they
right.
did a
Absolutely.
fantastic job as well.
Right.
Yeah,
Friends,
yeah.
we have way too many stories and not enough time. I've got
Right.
at least 8 that I could sit here and for the next hour walk you through. I've been talking about it at conferences all year.
Yeah.
Some
Yeah.
of these
Right.
longer versions of,
Right.
Big Steve and Counselor Dale and
Yeah.
Mega Maggie and some of these
Yeah.
kids that have made lasting impressions on me.
Yes.
Very quickly, in 30 seconds or less, I got to do something that was hilariously fun. Max Akers, because I'm with SkyWatch TV, he says, "Hey man, you should MC the talent show."
That was so much
Because
fun.
that
every
was
year,
great.
every one of these camps, they do a talent show, and these
Yep.
kids can do anything. Stand up and do a comedy routine or a cartwheel or
Or sing.
Yeah, or sing a cappella, whatever. And so one of the things that I was able to do was MC that with my big radio voice, Ladies and gentlemen, let's give it up for little Susie. She's a big deal, And it was
Yeah,
hilarious.
it was
It also
fun.
gave Max a break. And I had to look for something during every performance because some of them were just standing there kind of chuckling and wringing their hands. And now they're done. Little Billy is so brave. Let's give it up. He gave it a try. He came up.
Yeah,
he made it.
right.
He made a wave. Oh, it's Billy. Trying to feature some moment of
Right.
their performance when there's very little to work with at times. And I promise I can't do justice to this, but I want to talk to you about the need because Whispering Ponies Ranch is only able to facilitate these camps because
Right.
of generous viewers and supporters just like you. The model stopped being years ago, Charisse, that we could simply underwrite this because of, book donations.
Right.
And a lot of people under the last 4 years in particular, they've still not recovered from hyperinflation, the
Yes.
difficulty just buying groceries, and what little money they might be banking now that economic circumstances are shifting maybe in a more positive direction. They're trying to get caught up on credit card
Right,
payments and stuff. So
exactly.
it's not, hey, we had a political election cycle and now the finances across the nation are fixed and everybody's got wherewithal to send in money for book donations. That really isn't the method by which we're able to do this anymore. It
Right.
really is just that people believe in the vision of what Whispering Ponies Ranch and Skywatch TV are doing. Camp food costs money, employee wages. We're talking about repairs and maintenance, veterinary expenses,
Right.
Yeah.
the farrier,
Yeah.
fertilizer, grass upkeep, animal feed,
Yeah.
training equipment, amenity utilities, camp insurance.
Oh, that's a
That
big,
sounds-
it
It is-
doubled.
yeah, our insurance has doubled from what it was.
Yeah.
Sanitary services, garbage, janitorial supplies, and more. But I want you to know, ladies and gentlemen, that if you want to help send a kid to camp, one of the biggest responses we've ever had, and this has become our annual campaign since the success of its origin a few years ago, is our Send a Kid to Camp model for ministry. And I want to explain this to you. When you decide to send a kid to camp, you underwrite the expenses associating with providing specialized services to camper, including around-the-clock supervision, activities and equipment, food service, that list of things I just mentioned, and everything else needed to make a Whispering Ponies Ranch camp a healing and unforgettable experience in the life of a seriously abused child. For kids of trauma, the positive self-esteem supporting inspiration of this unique camping experience becomes unforgettable. It becomes an important part of their development and eventually their path. It is the filter where they leverage everything else beyond that week of camp as their
is.
life filter, the thing that they weigh it against, making decisions, the lessons that they've learned and processed. And campership donations are the core of support for these traumatized youngsters. And I want to tell you how you can partner with us. Will you send one or more kids to camp this year at Whispering Ponies Ranch? In order to do that, I'm going to bring this up on the screen for you. You can underwrite the cost for a full week of 5 days for one kid for only $350. That is the expense to send one kid to camp for an entire week.
Which is absolutely unheard of. If you have a child and you send them to camp, $350 for the entire week for everything and all the amenities, it's unheard of.
Right.
But we really want to be flexible and accommodating. Not everybody has $350 to send a child to camp for an entire week. So we also have the ability to sponsor a kid for a half week of camp. That's one kid at camp for only $175. That is your donation of $175. We'll send one kid to a half week of camp, and maybe there's another sponsor that will also complete the other half,
Yeah.
and we're still getting souls to
Absolutely.
Whispering Ponies Ranch.
Right.
Yes.
But you can also sponsor a kid for one full day of camp, which is a donation of only $75. So you get to own that for the rest of your life. You know that one child made it to 1 day of camp for only $75. This is a donation to Skywatch TV to help us fulfill this important work. We also have opportunities for those that do have additional means, that have really bought into the vision of Whispering Ponies Ranch and want to help more than one kid be able to go to camp for their encounter with Jesus Christ. Special week of camp for 5 kids is only a donation of $1,700. Friends, this is 5 souls at Whispering Ponies Ranch with unforgettable encounters with Jesus Christ because of your generosity. A special full week of camp for 10 kids. If this is something that you can do, that you would prayerfully consider doing, a special week of camp for 10 kids is a donation of only $3,250. Friends, this is not money that goes to Joe Horn's private jet fund. If you
That's
know me
hilarious.
and you see what I drive and where I live, that's a dandy idea, isn't it? These people are laughing at me because they know.
Quite common.
The minute we're done with these programs, this suit is coming off and I go back to work.
Yep.
This is not money that is being wasted on frivolous things.
No, not
This
at
is
all.
keeping SkyWatch TV in the black so that we can do what we really care about as a ministry, and that is
Yep.
preach the gospel of Jesus Christ to the
Right.
four corners of the earth,
Absolutely.
and to support, aid, abet, underwrite, and provide camping experience for these young kids that have been abused in every possible way that you can imagine, where society has said you'll never amount to anything.
Yeah.
Right.
You have no value.
Yeah.
Their hands have been held on stovetops as a form of discipline. They've been locked in dog cages. They've been beaten with bicycle chains. These kids, you can't imagine until you look into the eyes of some of these kids that have been traumatized during what is a rehabilitation-based, Jesus Christ-inspired week of camp. And it all happens at Whispering Ponies Ranch via SkyWatch TV because of people just like you. And very quickly, before we run out of time, if you're one of these that loves the handy access to something simple and slick like a mobile app, you can also go to the App Store.
Yeah.
We have a SkyWatch television app that you can download free, and it actually frameworks every week all of our episodes so that you can't miss 1 minute of SkyWatch TV, even though we're being deplatformed on other platforms from
Yep.
time to time. But there's a very handy button on the mobile app that simply says donate.
Yeah.
It allows you to set up automated payments if you want to support us that way on an auto draw so that you don't even have to think about it. We've got people that have said, Joe, SkyWatch TV is my church.
Right.
Yes.
We don't even go to a building with four walls anymore. We watch SkyWatch every week, and we've decided to support your ministry as a form of tithe.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
can do that, but you can also donate specific one-time amounts through the mobile app. Ladies and gentlemen, once again, thank you for all of your prayer and your support over the last several years, especially
This
last
past
year.
year.
Yep.
Be praying for us as we go into 2025. Lucifer hates these camps.
Yes.
He messes with our technology. He messes with our vehicles. He messes
Yes.
with every possible thing that he can mess with to make sure that these kids do not experience this profound week with Jesus Christ. Through your continued prayers and support, we're going to do it again this year, and I can't wait to tell you all about it later this year when we do a
Yes.
2025 in review summer camp episode. For everybody here in studio, everybody up here on panel, thank you so much. We cannot wait to get started this year. I'm Joe Artis Horn. Keep your eyes on the prize, which is Jesus Christ. We'll be back.